The story of agriculture is, well, the story of survival. For thousands of years, people have faced the same challenge we do today. How to grow food when the soil beneath our feet is tired, depleted, or, just uncooperative. Some civilizations solved it with irrigation, others with animal manures. But there is one crop in particular that stood out across history for its ability not only to grow in poor soil, but to leave that soil richer than before. It's a plant that sustained armies, built cultures, and still offers a lesson to modern gardeners and farmers. This ancient grain is millet, one of humanity's oldest staple crops, and it has been feeding both people and the land for more than 4,000 years. When soil is thin, sandy, or lacking nutrients, most crops fail quickly. Wheat demands fertility, barley asks for some richness, and maize collapses without organic matter. Ancient farmers knew the limits of their land, and when they had no access to manure or fertile river valleys, they relied on a grain that could handle almost anything. Millet thrived in the poorest soils, even those baked by the sun or eroded by wind. Unlike crops that stripped land of the little fertility it had, millet survived with minimal input and still managed to feed entire communities. But millet's value didn't stop at survival. Its deep, fibrous root system worked the soil in a way that created structure and resilience. Where other grains left fields weaker, millet helped hold soils together, slowing erosion and preparing the ground for future crops. In this way, millet became more than just food. It was a soil builder, before the idea of soil building even existed. Now, the secret to millet's success, well, it really lies in its biology. Its roots stretch down and out, creating channels that allow air and water to move more freely in, compact or sandy ground. These roots also leave behind organic matter after harvest, slowly enriching the soil over time. While millet itself doesn't fix nitrogen like legumes do, it works symbiotically with soil microbes, stimulating the underground life that actually makes fertility possible. Farmers in ancient China and Africa, they noticed that after a few years of millet cultivation, their fields seemed easier to work and produced better harvests of other crops. In some traditions, millet was grown as part of a rotation, not just for the grain it provided, but for the way it prepared the land for barley, beans, or vegetables. The lesson here is clear: crops that care for the soil are just as valuable as those that fill the belly. Millet was never the prestige grain of great empires. It was really the grain of survival. Wheat and rice, well, they fed royalty, but millet fed the common people in regions where the soil was just too poor or the climate too dry for anything else. Archaeological evidence from northern China shows millet cultivation stretching back over 7,000 years, with entire settlements relying on it as their staple food. Across Africa, varieties of pearl millet thrived where maize and sorghum faltered, sustaining villages through drought and thin soils. In Europe, millet was a fallback during hard times. Medieval peasants often turned to millet porridge when other grains failed. And though it carried the reputation of being a poor man's grain, it was precisely this humble role that gave millet its historical power. It ensured survival where other crops spelled famine. For the modern gardener or small farmer, millet still carries the same benefits. It is, drought-tolerant, grows quickly, and can produce grain even in unimproved soil. But its value extends beyond harvest. Millet actually makes an excellent cover crop. When grown in rotation or used as a green manure, it adds biomass to the soil, suppresses weeds, and improves tilth. One practical example is sowing millet after harvesting early vegetables like lettuce or peas. Within a few weeks, millet shoots up, covering bare soil that would otherwise bake in the sun. And when it is cut down or left to decompose, the root matter enriches the soil below. Gardeners who rotate millet with legumes such as cowpeas or beans find that their beds steadily improve year after year, needing less outside compost or fertilizer. Growing millet does not require special skills or expensive inputs. Seeds are widely available, and the crop matures in as little as 2 to 3 months, depending on the variety. To experiment, you can sow millet in a neglected corner of your garden or a patch of soil that has given you trouble. Prepare the ground as you would for other grains, scatter the seed and, well, keep the soil moist until the seedlings establish. If you want to use millet primarily as a soil builder, let it grow until flowering. Then cut it down and allow the residue to remain on the soil as mulch. This mulch slowly breaks down, feeding microbes and protecting the soil surface. Over time, you will notice the ground becoming darker, looser, and, more alive. That is the same quiet gift millet gave to farmers thousands of years ago. Modern agriculture often searches for chemical fixes to poor soils, fertilizers, conditioners, and additives designed to force fertility. But, history reminds us that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. Millet, a grain often overlooked in today's diets, carries with it a legacy of resilience and soil care. Ancient farmers knew that planting the right crop could change not just the harvest, but the land itself. When we reintroduce crops like millet into our gardens and fields, we are not just experimenting with heritage grains, we are reconnecting with an old method of soil stewardship. It is a reminder that fertility is not something we buy in a bag, but something we build through living systems and thoughtful planting. In an age of soil erosion, desertification and declining fertility, the lessons of millet are not just historical curiosities, they are urgently relevant. As gardeners and growers, we face the same challenges as ancient people: how to keep the land producing while also keeping it alive. Millet shows that, one crop can do both. It provides food security while simultaneously setting the stage for healthier soils. Either way, the principle is timeless. Crops should give back to the soil as much as they take. The story of millet is really the story of survival against the odds. For thousands of years it allowed people to thrive on poor land, and it left that land stronger for the next generation. Today we have the chance to learn from that same wisdom. By planting millet, or simply by respecting the way ancient people managed their soils, we can, really improve our gardens, restore our land, and build resilience into our food systems. If you've been searching for a way to enrich your soil without relying solely on compost or fertilizers, millet is honestly a forgotten ally worth bringing back. Try it in a corner of your garden, watch how the soil responds, and you'll see, why it was trusted for over 4,000 years. For more stories that blend history, survival, and timeless wisdom for modern living, make sure to subscribe to In the Beginning. Share this guide with others who care about soil, resilience, and heritage crops. And let's keep the knowledge alive, shall we?